Just over 6 weeks ago now, a mystery gripped the entire country when a 59-year-old mother, an office manager, her name was Debbie Collier, she was reported missing under strange circumstances. A day later, her body would be found near where I'm standing right now in a wooded area that we will be going to today. She was found partially nude and she had burns on her body, and she was found laying down, clutching a tree. She was holding on to a tree when they found her. Today, I'm in Habersham County, Georgia, Tallulah Falls area, North Georgia, and we're going to be talking about the strange story, and we're going to be retracing Debbie's last steps as we try to uncover what happened to Debbie Collier. It's a beautiful fall day here in Georgia. I'm starting this video off today in a place called Tallulah Falls. I'm at Tallulah Point Scenic Overlook right now. I don't know where the falls would actually be in Tallulah Falls. This is called Tallulah Gorge. And you can see the river way down there. And at one point, it looks like this area was a place to be, a happening spot. It doesn't look that way much anymore. We're not here for this today. We're in Tallulah Falls to talk about Debbie Collier. By all accounts, Deborah Todd Collier lived a normal life leading up to the events of today's story. Debbie was married to a man named Steve Collier, and they even shared a Facebook account together as one. They were big Georgia Bulldogs fans. Debbie, she was an office manager right here at Carriage House Realty in Athens, Georgia. And most importantly, Debbie was a mother for 2 children, Amanda and Jeffrey Bearden. Everything seemed normal with the family. Debbie did have issues with a few of her daughter's ex and current boyfriends over the years. In fact, during one of Amanda's spats with her current boyfriend, he's a part of this story too, he actually left a note threatening to hurt Amanda or anyone in her family. It seems as if drugs and domestic violence just followed Debbie's daughter around, Amanda. And of course, Debbie, as a mother, she's going to have a problem with that. But nothing else stands out as being unusual or not normal. Leading up to the strange things that happened right before Debbie Collier's disappearance, the timeline and the set of strange events start on April the 30th of this year, 2022, when Debbie, who was driving a 2020 Ford Ranger, she was driving in Athens when a paint can fell off of a truck that was in front of her, and it hit her Ford Ranger and caused her to crash. Paint was all over the place. It was a mess. The driver of that truck that lost the paint can, he stopped and he pleaded with Debbie to not call law enforcement. He told her that he didn't have a license, and he couldn't afford for this to go on his record. But Debbie, knowing that her insurance was going to have to be involved to fix her vehicle, she does call the police and she makes a report. The driver of the other truck, Miguel Martinez, he was cited for driving without a license and driving with an unsecured load. At that time, Debbie's 2024 Ranger was put into a shop to be repaired, and then her insurance got her a rental car, this Chrysler Pacifica minivan. Things again returned to normal for the Colliers for a few months. Despite them having this rental car, everything else was normal. So now we're going to fast forward to September of 2022. September the 8th, Debbie's daughter Amanda and her boyfriend Andrew, they move back to Athens, Georgia from Atlanta after being away from Athens for some time. The next day, on Friday, September the 9th, Debbie takes Amanda and Andrew out to eat for lunch. This Friday, this is the last time either one of them to report seeing her. Debbie's husband, Steve Collier, also says that Friday the 9th, at about 9 p.m. that night, that was the last time he saw Debbie as well. Now, we know from comments that Debbie's husband made that they slept in different beds because he snores a lot and it was keeping her awake at night, so they slept in different rooms. He saw her right before they went to bed at 9 p.m. that night, and then he got up and left the next morning. Her vehicle was still there, meaning she was still there at that point, as far as anyone knows. So, Saturday, September the 10th, the Georgia Bulldogs are playing Sanford at home in Athens. So Steve leaves his house early that morning because he works parking cars at the stadium. So they had the game that day, so he went down there and was parking cars at the stadium all day long. At 2:17 that day, that Saturday, cameras picked up Debbie's rental van driving north on Highway 15, heading away from Athens. At 2:55 p.m., Debbie arrives here at this Family Dollar store, and she is picked up by this camera right here, pulling into the parking lot. She's on camera inside of the store purchasing a red tote bag, a blue tarp, a long stem barbecue lighter, a rain poncho, and some paper towels. In that Family Dollar security footage, you can see that Debbie is wearing her Georgia Bulldogs jersey, and she has on a Bulldogs visor and a blue skirt. She was ready for the game. It was game day. This was normal. They did this every Saturday. So at 3:09, Debbie pays for her items in the Family Dollar, and she walks out of the store and gets into her minivan. And she sat out here in the parking lot of this Family Dollar for exactly 10 minutes, from 3:09 to 3:19. But at 3:17, she sends her daughter a Venmo payment for over $2,300. It's like $2,385, I think. And with it, she also sends a weird cryptic note that says, "They aren't gonna let me go. I love you." And she talks about having a house key in the flower pot at their home. Debbie would have been sitting right here in this parking lot when she sent that message at 3:17, because we know from the cameras that she didn't leave till 3:19. So she would have been parked right up here, right in front of the Family Dollar when she sent that message, sitting in her van with that note. Now, law enforcement have analyzed these videos front and back, right and left, and they have come out and said that it doesn't appear anyone else was in the vehicle with Debbie at the time that she sent that Venmo with that note. Now, we don't know, and they don't know, if someone was laying down in the back that they couldn't see or anything like that, but so far they have no evidence to believe that that was the case. So they believe that she was on her own when she sent that message and when she sent that Venmo payment, just as like she was on her own inside of the Family Dollar. At 3:19 p.m., right after sending the Venmo to her daughter, she leaves the Family Dollar parking lot and she comes right here on Georgia Highway 15, going down the road this way. She's going south. And this was the last time that Debbie Collier would be seen alive ever again. At 5 p.m., an hour and a half later, after the last sighting of Debbie Collier, a police officer who's driving down Georgia Highway 15, he saw Debbie's rental van sitting right here off the side of the road. It wasn't reported stolen at that time. It wasn't reported missing. Nothing was reported, so the officer didn't investigate it. He thought maybe the vehicle had just broken down, or the owner could be out here in these woods hiking, so he took no action. He left it alone and he drove off. At 5:45 p.m. that Saturday, 2.5 hours after the Venmo payment was sent to the daughter, Amanda, Debbie's daughter, she first reports it to some other family members that she can't get a hold of her mother. By this time, Steve, who was parking cars at the Georgia Bulldogs game, he's done, and he gets up with Amanda and he calls 911 and reports his wife missing.
911.
Yes. Came home, my wife wasn't home, her driver's license still in there, the rental car's gone, and her daughter's here, and we were kind of worried about what's happening and where she's at. I was wondering if you could send somebody over here.
Okay. Do you have any medical issue? Let's say like Alzheimer's or something like that?
No. She's 59 years old. No, she has no medical issues like that. And according to her daughter, who went up and her purse is still here with her driver's license. The only thing is the phone is gone, and she sent her daughter a text about 2 hours ago saying they won't let me go. Whatever that means, we don't know. And I've been gone all day parking cars for the football game and all, and that's where we're at.
Throughout the evening of that September the 10th, Steve, Debbie's daughter Amanda, and Debbie's sister, they all were reported to have called 911 and made statements to law enforcement. Because it's now the middle of the night, there isn't a whole lot that law enforcement can do. So basically they call in reinforcements and they prepare for when the sun comes up to begin their search for Debbie. So the very next morning, this is Sunday, September the 11th of 2022, law enforcement hits the ground running. It was about lunchtime that Sunday that the satellite radio company inside of that Chrysler Pacifica minivan, they ping a signal for the van, and then they show they get they can see it on the map. They see exactly where the van's sitting, and they report it to law enforcement. The Athens Police Department hit the road headed this way to Tallulah Falls, and in the meantime, they contact a local police department or a local law enforcement agency, and they have an officer come right here to where the van was to secure it until they get here. So the local officer, he pulls up here next to the van, he peeks in and he doesn't see anything inside of it, but back in the woods over here, out of the corner of his eye, a red tote bag, it catches his eye. So he walks into the woods to take a look. Now, he sees the red tote bag laying there. He also finds a blue tarp, but part of it had been burned. He sees an area that looks like where the remains of a fire had recently been burning. And then next to the fire is a woman's purse and cell phone. As he's moving around, looking at all of the stuff that's still laying around, he also finds a bullet, an unfired bullet, an unspent round that's just randomly laying on the ground. So the officer keeps looking around, and as he walks a few feet further back into the woods, he looks down and he sees a person laying on the ground. So this officer runs over to the person he sees to check and see if they're still alive and see if he can help them. Once he got to them, he knew exactly who it was. He had discovered the deceased remains of 59-year-old Debbie Collier. Debbie was nude from the waist up. She had burns on her stomach, on her abdomen, and she was laying down in a ravine with her right hand firmly gripping the base of a tree, like she was holding on for her life. There's so many things that just don't add up here. There's so many strange circumstances going on all at one time. It's no wonder why this case is gripped everyone's attention all over the country. By this time, detectives from Athens show up here to the scene. The officer shows them, everything that he had found, and they're walking around looking for more evidence. When all of a sudden, Debbie's daughter Amanda, she actually shows up here, just over an hour away from where they live. Obviously, she's hysterical, and she's causing a disturbance out here. Now, I don't know how she knew where to come to at that time, but she came and she wanted to know if they found her mother. Law enforcement originally treated it as a kidnapping / homicide, but they very quickly changed their stance on that and said that they believed that this was personal, that this was done by someone close to Debbie and their family.
At this time, there is no evidence to suggest or support that this incident was related to a kidnapping or that this was a suicide.
3 days after her body was found, police raided Amanda and Andrew's home in Athens. They served search warrants and they took items from their home. Both Amanda and Andrew were taken down to the police station and interrogated for over 6 hours. But they were eventually let go. At this point, 6 weeks later, law enforcement has just about investigated every avenue that they could come up with. Was this a random killing? Was this a serial killer? Was this a family member? They investigated reports that there was a male drug rehab center near here where she was found. But so far, they have come up empty at each turn. Now, just recently, within the last few days, they have come out and said that they're looking into if potentially she might have lost her mind all of a sudden or done something to herself intentionally. There's no history of any mental problems with Debbie Collier, so it would be just completely sudden if that was the case. But this is what they're investigating now. Because of these circumstances of her disappearance and her death being so weird, and the fact that police don't seem to know what happened at all, it's caused a lot of rumors to swirl. One media channel reported that Amanda's boyfriend, Andrew, owes someone money for nearly the exact same amount that was sent by Debbie to her daughter on Venmo. I don't know where that information came from, but it was reported by the media. I've heard other media reports where they tried to connect Andrew's mother being in prison for 30 years for meth to Debbie's murder. Again, I don't know where that came from, but it is being reported in the news. So who really knows what's going on? In the police investigation, drugs and money keep coming up, especially when it comes to Amanda and Andrew. In fact, it was just recently when a domestic violence situation occurred where Andrew accused Amanda of stealing money from him to buy drugs, and then they got into a fight about it and the police were called.
There's proof of her stealing my money, and that's all I want, is my money and my stuff.
You been living here?
I haven't recently, but she's still been taking money from my card. And that's the only reason we've had any contact, because every week she takes $500 or $600 from my check. And I just don't see how that's right. And she goes and does dope with my money. And I've made over $30,000, $40,000 this year, and I'm completely broke because she spends it all on drugs. And
that was just recently, but besides that, it's just really strange, all of the coincidences that took place all at one time. Like the day before all this happened, those two moved back to Athens. Obviously, law enforcement thought that was weird too, since they raided their home and interrogated them after they found Debbie's body. But today, though, as we stand here at the beginning of November, there have been no arrests made in this case. Law enforcement has no suspects, and there doesn't seem to be any leads left for them to explore. Hence, them looking at this as like a mental break or a suicide type thing, thinking that she may have done this to herself. From where I'm standing, if she had done this to herself, that just leaves more questions than it does answers in this case. Why the fire, and why did she get burned, and why, law enforcement has yet to release Debbie's autopsy to show exactly how she died. They have said that she wasn't killed by a gunshot. There was no bullet wounds. I guess that's something that they're keeping pretty close to the chest while they continue investigating. So there's no telling at this point exactly what she went through the day of September the 10th and the 11th. Could she have been alive still when that police officer passed and saw her car sitting out there? And where was she when he was there? Who knows? The only thing we do know is that everything leading up to this case has been complicated. It has been strange and weird, and it's unlike any other case I've ever heard of before in my lifetime, reading about true crime or especially since I've been, you know, covering true crime videos on my YouTube channel. I've not seen any other case like this with these weird set of events leading up to someone's death. It's absolutely crazy. Right here on this busy highway. This is Georgia Highway 15. It's this wooded area. You can see some people have left some flowers now in honor of Debbie Collier. Debbie was found laying right here. That is going to do it for this video today from here in North Georgia, Tallulah Falls, and the disappearance and death of Debbie Collier. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're new here, go down, hit that subscribe button, then hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. Thank you all. I will see you again in the next one. Please, all of you, stay safe and stay healthy. Much love to you all.